Oh my goodness. So, welcome to this week. This week, we're talking about artificial intelligence and the ethics of AI. And I have to tell you, I just spent the afternoon watching some pretty amazing videos and reading some very interesting ethical issues. So, let's jump right into this because um, I think you're going to find a lot that's interesting. Let me jump over to our website. And if you click on week 5, of course, always start off on the checklist. The checklist ties things together. And it looks like a lot, but it's not really a lot. So these two articles are the same. One is just a PDF version of the other one. But in the Think section, and this is the part I want you to have ready to go for Zoom this week. All right, so Monday, people, you need to jump right on this. And I put the link in Discord just to give you a jump start. So this is a paper from Stanford University. They have a whole encyclopedia of ethics, and this particular one happens to be on AI and robotics. You don't have to read the whole thing, but you might find it actually interesting. The part I want you to focus in on is this main debate section, because they've got 10 different issues, ethical issues, that have to do with the use of artificial intelligence. Some of these we're going to start finding overlaps. This idea of privacy and surveillance. We had privacy last week. We have employment coming up in a few weeks. So automation and employment, what does that mean? Anyhow, what I want you to do is scan over all of these. Each of these sections is only a couple of paragraphs. So the whole, okay, maybe if you had to print it out, it'd probably be about a page or a little under a page of stuff. Anyhow, scan over this, but mostly pick 2 or 3 that you find exceptionally interesting and read the whole thing. And then see if you can find a resource that has to do with that topic, maybe from a different angle. See what else you can find. Find a current resource. And when I say current, that means something within the last, probably 2 years, especially on a topic like this. So much has changed in the last couple of years. So that's the first place to start, is to scan over this article, because you'll need something in your brain about a couple of those topics for our Zoom calls this week. And then this is what I've been doing all afternoon, okay? So a couple of these are long, but I think you'll find them interesting, and I probably should switch places. So this crash course video is kind of the nuts and bolts of how machine learning actually works, like how it actually learns stuff, okay? So that's like an 11-minute video if you're interested in the technical aspect, but it doesn't really get into any of the ethical issues at all. However, this Wired film is about 41 minutes long, totally worth watching the whole thing, okay? So it does go into like, how does machine learning work? Like, how does that happen? But then as it goes through the video, it actually brings up some really interesting issues, some good issues, like some things that are beneficial for artificial intelligence, but it also brings up some things that might not be so good. So it's going to give you some good pros and cons, and it's a really interesting video to watch. So I think, 41 minutes will go by fast. It's on YouTube, so if you need to watch it at time and a half or listen to it, I don't know that you need, it's good to watch it, but a lot of times when I'm watching videos, like when I'm paying attention to videos, I'll just be listening to it while I'm, I don't know, cleaning house or doing something else. Anyhow, so that's the Wired one. Now, as a bonus one, and I literally just finished watching this one, this one's about an hour and a half long. The trailer's a minute and a half, okay? So they take an hour and a half, you know how trailers are, right? Condense it into a minute and a half. But Go is this ancient game. It's the longest continuously played board game in the history of humankind. That's what they say. People have been playing this game for, like, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000 years. And so AlphaGo is the artificial intelligence version. And so the trailer will kind of whet your appetite for it. And then if you feel like it, go watch the whole thing. Like, unbelievable, because it goes into how they trained it. And AlphaGo is a Google program. And so it goes into how they trained the artificial intelligence to play this game, which is interesting in and of itself. But then it ends up with so Go is one of these games where they have like world competitions. They have world Go masters, right? That are like the best in the world. And so it has it play against someone that's really, really good, that's high up in the ranks. And then it ends up having it play against the guy that is the best player in the world. Okay. Nobody has beat this guy, and no human has beat this guy. And so watch this. If you watch this, it's a bonus one, but I think you'll find it interesting, especially on this topic of artificial intelligence. Watch it with subtitles, because it's a lot of it's filmed in Korean. You know, a lot of English speakers too. It's an English movie, but the guy who they're playing against, the AI against AlphaGo, is a Korean. So there's a lot of subtitles where it's very helpful to have that. And so the question to ask yourself is, what does that mean? So a few years ago, when they had the best chess player in the world playing against the computer chess game, that was different, because that chess game, they loaded in all the possible chess moves. And then the computer kind of figured out how to play against this guy. With AlphaGo, this game Go, from what they say, has more potential moves than the number of atoms in the universe. Okay, it's an almost infinite game, and it's really interesting. It explains it really well how it's played. I've heard of the game, but I never knew how it was actually played until I watched this. And so there's no way you could program all that in. It had to learn. It was machine learning. And so I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to tip the hat and tell you how it ended. I'm just going to tell you that in a very nerdy sort of way, this captured my attention all the way to the end. All right. So let's come down to what you actually do for this week. So I don't have a do specifically on this article. In the think section of this week's checklist, it does tell you scan the main debates and be ready to use this in Zoom. Okay, because we're going to talk about this in Zoom. But the main do things you have to do is show up to Zoom. Okay, be ready to talk about those scenarios from last week. All right, and I know that gave some of you guys a real headache. The whole point of that was, what would you do? And then how do you come up with that, those 5 steps, or how do you come up with the information you need to make a good ethical decision? But this week, we're going to dig into some of these issues in Zoom. And then the second thing I'm going to give you is the policy brief wiki comments. So last week, you guys were making comments, and we only had 2 briefs to do that on. This week, we have 5 or 6 briefs to make your comments on. And so they're listed here. And same thing, just go in. If you don't know how to do that, leave a wiki comment. It's pretty simple. And what I'm looking for is that you either add to the knowledge base there, or you ask questions, or you make some sort of interaction there to get the points for that. For those of you that, let me come back here. I'm going to keep this on the checklist every week on the policy brief assignments. So I took off this current week. Next week, here's the group of people that have next week's topics. Make sure that you have your policy briefs online by this date. So next Monday is October 5th. So you should have the policy briefs online by October 4th. Politics and elections. Holy cow, we have our first debate this week, and I can't believe it's during one of our Zoom calls. So I'm going to have to watch it afterwards, because I'm always super interested in hearing directly from the candidates themselves. But how does all of this, what are the ethics of the technology impact on politics and elections? And I'll give you a hint, because something with artificial intelligence that the Wired video goes into a little bit is this idea of deep fake. Does that have any impact? Does it have any impact that we have leaders that are using social media, which ties into another topic that we have? Is there any impact that somebody can say something and clip it and cut it and put it out there as if it was real? Oh my gosh, there's so many. What about voting online? What about voting by mail? What about, just so many what abouts. So I'm very excited to see the topics. So what you're going to want to do, make sure this week, and I would advise doing this earlier in the week. If you can do this before Zoom, that's even better. But go to the wiki. You don't even have to make the comments right off. You might actually want to hold the comments until after we do Zoom. But at least scan through what these people have put together, because I scanned through and there's some very interesting implications that the Stanford article also talks about. So This is kind of a shorter video, but like I said, so much interesting stuff, so many implications of artificial intelligence and that technology and the ethical issues involved. We didn't even touch on like artificial intelligence and medicine, like diagnosing. Maybe we'll hit that in bioethics when we get down to that point. I just so many good issues. I'm so excited about this week. It's a fun topic. So I'll see you guys in Zoom. Try to show up a few minutes early and let's talk about stuff.